This is a story about choices that disrupt the lives of the main characters, leaving behind marks that cannot be erased. Immerse yourself in this passionate narrative and prepare for unpredictable plot twists and deep human emotions. I enjoyed watching the waiters and kitchen staff attend to guests, moving between tables and organizing the dishes. Alone at the far end of the table, Frank Walker observed other diners savoring their moments, some pausing to walk or make calls, others helping themselves to drinks and coffee as the celebration continued. However, Frank was lost in thought, reflecting on a shocking message he had received from an anonymous source. The message warned him about a possible threat posed by Mark Leah, who, according to the note, intended to win over Frank's wife. The warning caught Frank off guard. As he reread the note, he saw his wife dancing again with Leah, which unsettled him, especially when they disappeared from view for the second time. Frank decided to intervene. However, before he could stand up, the music stopped and he saw them leaving the dance floor. That calmed him, and he sat back down, waiting for Leah to accompany his wife back. Instead, he saw them heading toward Mark's table and noticed them engaging in conversation with him and his acquaintances. Shortly after, Leah left, and Frank's wife, after saying goodbye to Frank and expressing her affection, headed toward the restrooms. As he watched her walk across the dining area toward the hallway that led to the bathrooms, he felt that something was off about her claim of going to the restroom. What seemed strange was her pause and the declaration of love. It suggested her departure had a different motive. Frank stood up and followed her. He had barely taken a few steps when Leah and his companions, just as the note had warned, stood from their table and blocked his path. Frank Walker made his living solving problems for various organizations. Every week, he flew to different countries to fix issues in companies and institutions experiencing administrative, operational, or financial crises. Often, Frank dealt with egotistical and authoritarian executives who climbed the ranks through tricks, bribes, lies, manipulation, and coercion. He regularly faced stubborn managers and directors who exploited and intimidated employees, proudly displaying their lack of ethics. When Frank stepped into these situations to implement changes that affected employees' work and well-being, he frequently encountered resistance, harassment, and even threats. On one occasion, he received threats from a drug cartel due to his involvement in relocating an American factory from Mexico to Alabama. Yet Frank stood firm, and the move was completed. He excelled at his profession. Encountering ambitious, selfish, ruthless, and dangerous individuals was, essentially, his specialty. That's why, when Mark Leah, imposing but inexperienced, and his group confronted him, Frank quickly turned the situation around. Intimidated, they stepped aside. They had never before been warned so directly about the consequences of their actions until Frank did it. They immediately backed down and let him pass, no longer obstructing him. Frank hurried to follow Brooke. When he caught up to her, she was near the rear exit of the venue. "Brooke," he called. She either didn't hear him or chose to ignore him and continued walking toward the exit. Frank quickened his pace, closing the distance, and called again. "Brooke. Where are you going now?" Brooke stopped, turned around, and faced him with an irritated and questioning expression, confused by Frank's presence there. Seeing her, Frank noticed that her demeanor was cold and that she was clearly upset that he had followed her. "I'll ask you the same. What are you doing here?" Brooke demanded. She hesitated for a moment before replying to Frank. "I wanted to," she began but stopped mid-sentence. Frank looked into her eyes and asked again, "Where are you going, Brooke?" Brooke looked away, thinking to herself that this situation shouldn't be happening. He shouldn't be there. Frank began again, "Brooke," but she cut herself off, needing time to decide what to reveal. She realized there was no point in making something up. She was forced to tell the truth. She had to say where she was going, even if it made her uncomfortable or hurt Frank. Earlier that night, Brooke had unexpectedly run into Mark Leah after leaving the hall. As she passed Mark's table, he saw her, stood up, politely stopped her, introduced himself, and started a brief conversation. Later, Brooke returned to her seat with Frank and the others at their gathering. When the celebration reached its peak, the live band began their first performance of the evening. Shortly after the music started, Mark approached the guests' table. Naturally, everyone became excited when a local football player and sports idol made an appearance. He was courteous, introduced himself, shook hands with the guests, took selfies, signed autographs, and then invited Bro to dance. Bro was surprised and declined his offer at first, but Mark insisted kindly. The other guests encouraged her, and Frank raised no objections. So she accepted the invitation with some hesitation. Needless to say, Bro felt nervous as Mark led her to the dance floor with his group. But once there, she discovered that dancing with Mark wasn't what she had imagined. He was young, attractive, bold, a standout athlete, and an excellent dancer. During the dance, the way Mark interacted with her made an impression. He held her in a way she found comfortable, and he spoke in a manner that pleased her. He said things she liked to hear. He was winning her over. From that moment on, she accepted each of his invitations to the dance floor. As the night progressed, after several dances and growing familiarity, her attraction to him intensified, undoubtedly becoming physical. By the end of the evening, he led her off the dance floor to a more private area, where he embraced her gently, spoke to her about his feelings, and suggested going to his home to relax and get to know each other better. He described in detail how they might spend the night together, promising it would be a special and unforgettable experience. Bro was captivated. While she sat with Frank and the other guests, she pondered Mark's proposal. She wrestled with the idea of leaving Frank behind at the celebration to go off with a man she barely knew. But the desire she felt for Mark thrilled her. She recognized that this desire was a deviation from her loyalty to Frank. Though she had felt attracted to other men before, she had never acted on it. This night felt different. She longed for Mark's affection and was tempted to surrender to the moment. However, she also struggled with guilt, betraying Frank's trust and the commitments they had made together. To rationalize her decision, Bro searched for a justification she could accept morally, and perhaps Frank could understand. She chose to leave with Mark not only because he was a professional athlete and local celebrity, but also because he had a certain charm and sense of honor that fascinated her. Mark embodied the idea of a romantic fantasy and offered Bro an opportunity she found irresistible. She believed Frank would see it as a rare adventure for her and would support her decision to explore the connection with Mark. Just this once, she assumed it might hurt him, but he would understand. After all, he wasn't just her husband, he was her best friend and partner, and she hoped he would want her to take advantage of this unique moment. These thoughts calmed her as she gave herself a reason that seemed acceptable, one she hoped could convince Frank too. Deep down, though, she knew the real reason she was going with Mark was because of his boldness, the way he confidently declared that she would be his for the night. It awakened a powerful instinctive desire in her that she couldn't deny. She decided she wouldn't miss this thrilling experience. With her mind made up, as the birthday dinner concluded and the group returned to the venue to continue celebrating, Mark approached her table and invited her to dance again. Frank, clearly upset, resisted Mark's continued invitations to his wife. But Bro skillfully brushed off her husband's objections and agreed to one last dance, saying she liked the song. Mark thanked Frank for his patience before leading Bro back to the dance floor. In a dimly lit corner, Mark asked if she was ready to leave. She laughed and admitted that she had given in completely. After the dance, Mark walked her back to her table to finalize their departure plans. He reassured her about her safety and promised to handle any doubts Frank might have. Trusting his assurance, Bro moved toward the back exit, ready to leave with him. However, the plan fell apart when Frank unexpectedly appeared at the rear door, revealing a flaw in Mark's strategy. He stopped Bro and demanded an explanation. "Bro, I'm waiting. Tell me, where are you going?" Frank asked. Bro gathered all the courage she could and replied, "Frank. I'm going with Mark." "You're going with Mark?" Frank asked calmly. "Yes. I'm going to his house. He invited me," she said. Frank remained composed and asked why she was going there, blocking her path. "Frank, this is really complicated to explain right now. I'll call or message you later to explain everything I'm doing. But for now, I have to go. Mark is waiting for me," she explained. Frank kept his calm demeanor, still not letting her pass, and rejected the idea of hearing an explanation later. He insisted on understanding her intentions right then. "Oh God, Frank, please don't make a scene about this. Let me go, and then I'll explain everything to you," pleaded Bro. "No, Bro. I need you to tell me what's going on right now," insisted Frank, raising his voice. Faced with his persistence, Bro became defensive. "Frank, you don't control me. Move and let me pass." "No, Bro. You're my wife, and you're not leaving until you explain what you're intending to do," Frank replied. Realizing Frank's determination, Bro understood she had to explain her intentions. With a nervous sigh, she began, "Frank, I know this sounds awful, and honestly, I can't believe I'm doing this either, but I'm going with Mark to spend the night." She quickly added, "But Frank, it's only for tonight. He'll bring me back tomorrow." Frank didn't respond immediately. It took him a few seconds to process what his wife had just told him, that she planned to spend the night with Mark. He gathered his thoughts and then responded with anger. "No, Bro, you're not going to spend the night with Mark. This isn't some sleepover, is it? What you really plan is to be with him, isn't that right?" Bro looked away in silence. "Tell me, Bro. Is that what you're planning?" Frank pushed. Still silent, Bro kept her eyes fixed on the ground. "I know I'm right," Frank said firmly. Finally, Bro replied, "Yes, Frank, you're right. I plan to be with Mark in that way." Silence fell over the hallway. Eventually, Bro raised her eyes and saw the look of shock on Frank's face. "What are you thinking?" he asked. Frank Walker was not a man easily shocked or impressed, but what his wife had just confessed disturbed him deeply, even after receiving the note warning him that this might happen. For a moment, he lost his composure. "You want to know what I'm thinking, Bro? I think this is completely insane, madness. That's what I think," he exclaimed. Bro was startled by Frank's rare emotional outburst. She had never seen him so furious in all their time together, and it frightened her. "Oh God, Frank, I'm sorry. I really am," Bro said, still unable to meet his eyes. "Why, Bro? Why are you doing this?" Frank demanded. "Frank, I know this seems crazy to you, but please, just hear me out," she begged. "I'm listening," he replied. "Frank, maybe all women fantasize about a romantic moment with a celebrity or someone rich and famous," Bro began. Frank interrupted her sarcastically. "Let me guess, Mark Leah is your fairy tale prince? Your knight in shining armor? Please, Frank, don't mock this. It's a fantasy many women have. Mark isn't just anyone, he's unique. A true gentleman, a star, someone famous. I want to live out this dream every woman has. So please, Frank, show me your love by letting me experience this," she pleaded. Frank struggled to control his emotions in such an unbelievable moment. "So tonight, you're going to go off with Mark, spend the night with him, and tomorrow he'll bring you back, and we'll go on like a happy married couple, as if nothing ever happened? Is that what you're saying?" Frank asked. "It's not an affair. It's only for one night. Yes, I'll come back tomorrow, and my dream will have come true. I'll be happy, and you'll be happy too, because you supported me in this. Then we'll move forward," she replied, hoping Frank would believe her. But as she saw his reaction, Bro realized things were not unfolding as she had expected. "So you're discarding me for your charming prince, the one you think is far superior to me?" Frank said bitterly. "That really hurts, Bro. Does this mean I'm not special? That I'm not a real man?" "No. No, Frank, you are special. You are a real man," she cried out in desperation. "Then what are you saying?" he asked. "I'm not a professional athlete or a celebrity who apparently knows how to satisfy a woman, is that it?" Bro lowered her head. "There's more to it than that," she said softly. "Then what's the problem? Are you bored with me?" Frank asked. No, Frank, you're amazing," she insisted. But again, Frank interrupted, "I'm amazing, and yet you still need someone else. Yes, she admitted, still without looking at him. So tonight, you admit the person you want is Mark Leah, he concluded. She nodded, avoiding his eyes. So you've decided to spend the night with Mark Leah, giving yourself over to a night of passion, he continued. It's not about love. I don't love him, I love you, Frank. It's just a physical attraction. I'm drawn to him physically, not emotionally, she explained. So you're saying you can separate love from physical attraction, Frank deduced. Yes, Frank. I'm going with Mark for the physical attraction. But I'm coming back to you for love. You're my husband, my best friend, my soulmate. What we have is beyond just the physical, she reassured him. I won't argue with you about the difference between love and physical attraction. But as I said, I won't stand in your way, Frank repeated. Bro looked at him, wondering if he had truly understood her. Bro, if that's really what you want, then do it. Spend the night with him. Enjoy what you call love and passion. I won't stand in your way, Frank said with determination. I've already made it clear, this isn't about love, Bro clarified. I don't love him. I love you, Frank. It's only physical attraction. So you love him physically but love me emotionally? Frank replied. It's not that I love him physically, she muttered. Why won't you listen, Frank? I'm listening perfectly, he said. Your heart is with me, but your body will be with him tonight. Isn't that right? Frank, don't be cruel, said Bro, feeling exposed. What follows is your decision, to be with him and then expect us to carry on as if nothing happened. Do you really expect me to stand here, watching you walk away to be with another man? He questioned. Frank, I'm not leaving you permanently, she replied. But tonight, yes. And you're asking me to believe that you'll accept that, out of love for me? Yes, Frank. Please. I know it hurts. But you've always been understanding of my emotions, my dreams, and my needs. I trust that you'll see how important this night is for me. That you'll manage your frustration and handle it with the calm of a mature and cultured man, she tried to explain. I can manage it. I really can. But tell me, how exactly am I supposed to process the fact that tonight you'll be in Mark Lee's bed, that you'll give yourself to him? How am I supposed to face tomorrow, seeing you knowing that you spent not just a moment, but the whole night with him? How can I look at you, knowing you were with another man? He asked. Frank, I don't have an answer. I just hope you can make peace with it in your mind, and that we can continue with our lives. I know you're angry with me, but can't you see how essential this experience is to me? She asked. So what you're suggesting, said Frank, is that I swallow my pride and tolerate your night with him? It's not an affair, she shouted. And no, Frank, I don't expect you to just endure it. I'm asking you to recognize my emotions and needs, and to try to reconcile with them, out of love for me, because you're my closest companion, my soulmate, and you want me to have this special experience, an experience I may never get again. Please, Frank, I beg you, my love, she pleaded. Frank stared at her for a few seconds, letting her words sink in. It was incomprehensible to him that she truly expected him to accept her intimate relationship with another man. The more he thought about it, the more obvious it became that she didn't understand the gravity of her actions or their impact on him and their relationship. She seemed lost in a fantasy inspired by her interaction with Mark that night, and Frank felt the need to bring her back to reality. Bro, he said after a moment, what do you call a man whose wife sleeps with another? Bro struggled to find the exact term. They call him a cuckold. A fool. A man whose wife gives herself to another just to satisfy her desires, Frank said firmly. But I refuse to be turned into one, not by you, and not by Mark. Tears welled up in Bro's eyes as she looked at Frank. So you're not going to stop me? She asked. No, Bro. I won't stop you. You're an adult and responsible for your own decisions. If you truly believe this is what you need, go. Spend the night with him. Enjoy what you call love and intimacy. I won't block your way, Frank replied. I already told you, it's not love. I don't love him. I love you, Frank. It's only physical attraction. I repeat, just that, bro insisted. So you can separate love from physical attraction? Fine. I understand that, Frank said calmly. But as I've already said, I won't interfere. Frank, why do you sound like that? She asked. Because, bro, by going with him tonight, you're breaking what we have. I won't continue to be your husband if you decide to be with another man. What do you mean, Frank? She asked nervously. I mean that when you walk through that door, our marriage ends. Right then and there. We'll take off our rings, we'll cancel the union. We'll handle the legal side later. But for me, it ends the moment you cross that threshold, Frank explained. Before bro could respond, Frank continued, and tonight, when Mark walks you out, if you leave, I won't be a fool, because you will no longer be my wife. No, no, no. I can't do this, Frank. I just can't. Bro shouted. We've made it clear, bro. What's your final decision? He pressed. I don't know, she whispered, exhausted. Ridiculous. You do know what you want, Frank said. You want to spend the night with Mark Leah, and then come back to me. Bro cried in desperation, do my feelings really mean so little to you? Would you really end our marriage immediately over this, without even trying to fix it and move forward together? She asked. There's nothing to fix. Some things in life are unchangeable, and my wife being with another man is one of them, said Frank. I will not accept a situation where you're intimate with Leah and then we pretend it never happened and move on like it's irrelevant. So my feelings, emotions, and needs mean nothing to you, she snapped back with a sarcastic tone. Bro, just a moment ago you walked out without giving me any explanation. You basically discarded me. If I hadn't gone after you, stopped you from leaving, you'd be on your way to Mark Lee's house right now, to spend the night with him. You'd be betraying me a second time. Clearly, my emotions didn't matter to you. So why should yours matter to me? Frank asked, the weight of her decision hit bro all at once. Oh my God, Frank, I'm so sorry. I didn't even think, don't say you didn't think, Frank cut her off. Because you did. You spent the entire night considering the idea of getting ready, going with Leah, and experiencing all those romantic fantasies he proposed. Of course, you thought it through. But not once did you pause to think about me, why you were leaving, what you were doing. Oh God, Frank, please believe me. I didn't plan to leave without telling you. Once I got to Mark's place, I was going to message you to explain where I was and what I was doing, she explained. A message? Seriously? Frank laughed bitterly. So, while you were in his bed, you were going to text me, Frank, sorry I left the party, I decided to spend time alone with Mark. I won't be coming home tonight. Good night, see you tomorrow. That was your plan. That's cruel, he said. What's cruel is the way you impulsively decided to abandon me, your husband, your best friend, your soulmate, for one night with a man you barely know. That is cruel, Frank emphasized. What did you expect from me? That I'd take it lightly, she cried. Oh God, Frank, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wasn't thinking, well, bro, it doesn't matter now whether you thought about it or not, or whether you planned to explain it or not. I stopped you before you left. Now I understand what you intended, and you understand where I stand. There's nothing more to assume, we have to face reality, Frank said with determination. Bro looked at him, her brow furrowed. And what is that reality? She asked. The reality is this, Frank said, pointing. There's the door. Mark's valet is waiting outside. I assume he's getting impatient. The woman who had been Frank's wife for 12 years didn't hesitate. No, Frank. I'm not walking out that door. I refuse to leave you for him. I won't throw away our life together for him. I'm not that naive, bro said. Frank watched her carefully. 15 minutes ago, you were ready to walk through that door and go with him. What changed? Or is it just that now you're afraid of divorce? He asked. Well, I mean, are you saying that my desire to spend the night with Leah just vanished suddenly? Or are you thinking I'm planning to wait until you're away in Europe next week to see him? He pressed. No. Why would you think that? Bro exclaimed, raising her voice. Have you thought about when I won't be here? Frank insisted. No, no, no. I've never been unfaithful to you. I've never betrayed you. I love you, she declared loudly. But tonight, you were about to be unfaithful, Frank pointed out. If I hadn't stepped in, you'd be betraying me right now for the second time. The truth hit Bro hard as she finally faced what she had nearly done. Oh my God, no, no, no. What was I thinking? She cried. Then what happened? Frank asked. I don't know, Frank. I'm completely confused. I don't understand how I could have thought it was okay to go with Mark. That it wouldn't be wrong. That you wouldn't be upset, she confessed. Frank listened, but his skeptical expression didn't go unnoticed. Bro saw it and knew she had to be fully honest. Frank, I honestly don't know what got into me. It all started when Mark came to our table and asked me to dance. He was so bold and insistent, telling me how much he wanted me, how fun it would be to be together. Then, he pulled me close, kissed me, started touching me, and Frank, I didn't stop him. I didn't push him away, she admitted, tears running down her cheeks. So you encouraged him? Frank said coldly, yes. I encouraged him. I'm so sorry, Frank, she sobbed. After that, I convinced myself that going with him was the right decision. That you'd understand. That you wouldn't mind if I left with him. But now I see it was a huge mistake, and I'm truly sorry, she wept. Frank listened quietly as Bro recounted everything. He remembered the note the waiter had given him during dinner. He reached into his pocket and showed it to her. Here. Read this, Frank said. Bro read the note, then looked at Frank. Where did this come from? She asked. The waiter gave it to me during dinner, he replied. Is this real? She said, stunned. That's what it says, Frank explained. Bro was stunned after reading it. I can't believe it, she whispered. He picked you out of the crowd and played you, Frank said. Bro reread the note multiple times. So, everything he said to me, was it just a game for him? She asked. Yes. Everything he told you was part of a game, Frank confirmed. Bro felt devastated upon realizing she had only been the target of that week's joke, a prize to satisfy Mark Lovell's craving for married women. Last week, it might have been someone named Dee. Next week, maybe Sandy. But this time, it had been her. Bro understood her mistake and felt heartbroken, realizing she had nearly destroyed her marriage. Frank, I think I'm going to be sick, she said, rushing to the bathroom. After vomiting several times, she washed her hands and face. Looking in the mirror, she saw her pale, shaken reflection, an image that mirrored the emotional storm of the night. When she came out of the restroom, Bro saw Frank waiting near the exit. She ran toward him and embraced him tightly. Oh Frank, I'm so sorry. Please forgive my stupidity and naivety, she begged through sobs. Frank looked at her and spoke calmly. Bro, Lovell caught you off guard and seduced you to the point of making you believe that being with him wouldn't have consequences, that I wouldn't care if you had a fleeting encounter. But now you know the truth. You understand. So promise me we'll never fall into this again, he said firmly. As they headed toward the exit, Frank noticed two of Lovell's associates still present, standing just a few meters away and watching them. Bro, wait here. I need to speak with Lovell's friends, Frank explained. Please, just let it go. We don't need more trouble, Bro pleaded. No, Bro. I can't leave this unfinished, Frank replied. He walked away, leaving Bro behind. When he reached Lovell's two companions, Frank addressed them. "Gentlemen, we're not looking for trouble," he said. "Understood," one of them replied. "Good. Then follow my instructions. Tell your friend Lovell that today, he lost. That he's a failure. Tell him Frank Walker will make sure the world knows Mark Lovell is a loser," Frank ordered. The two men stared at Frank in shock. "Sir, we can't say that to him, he'd destroy us," one replied nervously. "Would you rather deal with me or with him?" Frank challenged. "Sir, we don't want to fight you," said the other. "Smart choice. Now, one of you, call him. Give him my message. And tell him not to show his face again," Frank instructed. One of the men grabbed his phone, dialed Lovell, and relayed Frank's message. Frank couldn't hear the whole conversation, but he could tell from the man's tone that Lovell was boiling with rage. His friend urged him not to do anything reckless. The call ended. "What did he say?" Frank asked. "He said he's going to destroy you," one of them replied. "All right," Frank said simply, without flinching. "Oh Frank, I promise, after this, I'll never let another man come near me," Bro declared. Frank looked at her for a moment and responded, "Okay. And when we're out socializing like tonight, I'll try to help you keep that promise. I should have stepped in before Lovell got close to you, but I failed. So the blame is mine too, and his. He never should have gone after a married woman, Bro. I forgive you, and I forgive myself. But him? I won't. One day, I'll settle this with him. Oh Frank, thank you for understanding. But please, let's forget about Mark. We'll never see him again, and he's not worth getting involved with," she said. After hearing that, Frank silently wondered why Bro didn't want Mark to face any consequences, especially after nearly ruining their marriage. Why was she so eager to let him walk away unpunished? "I'll think about it," Frank said calmly. "Would you rather go back to the party?" she asked. "No, Bro. Let's go home," he answered. "Yes, let's go home," Bro repeated quietly. Frank and Bro walked down the hallway, returned to the restaurant, and met up with Frank's two companions. Together, they left the venue and stepped out onto the street. Frank handed the valet ticket to the parking attendant, and they waited alongside other guests for their car. Suddenly, a car sped toward them and stopped abruptly in front of their position. The passenger window rolled down, revealing a furious Mark Lovell in the driver's seat. "Let's go, Bro. You said you wanted to come with me, so get in the car," he shouted. "She's not going with you, Lovell," Frank replied calmly. "I'm not talking to you, old man." Mark yelled at Frank. "Come on, Bro. Let's go." "No, Mark. I can't go with you tonight," Bro answered firmly. "Bro, get over here and get in the car. Let's go now." Mark screamed. "She's not going with you. It's over. You lost. You're a loser. Now leave us alone," Frank stated. Being called a loser in front of a crowd that probably admired him enraged Mark instantly. "I'll show you who the real loser is," Mark shouted, stepping out of the car. Frank quickly warned the guests nearby to back away. Sensing things were escalating, that he approached the front of the car on the driver's side and saw Mark Lovell brandishing a large semi-automatic pistol. Consumed with rage over losing Bro and humiliated in public, Lovell was out of control. Frank evaluated Lovell's posture, recalling a scene he'd once witnessed in the Masai Mara Reserve in Kenya, a lion fighting off hyenas for its prey. Just like that lion, Lovell had stalked Bro for hours, marked her as his prize, and tried to take her home for himself. But Frank had intervened, rescuing her. Now, like that lion, Lovell was desperate to reclaim what he believed was his. "No matter the cost, Bro is coming with me. If you try to stop her, I'll kill you," Lovell declared. Frank stepped back about 3 meters, raising his hands with open palms and extended fingers, a defensive, non-threatening posture. "Put the gun down," Frank urged. "You've caused enough of a scene." "Shut up," Mark roared. "You're not going to win this. I'll eliminate you and take her with me." He aimed the pistol at Frank. So furious and unstable was he that Mark didn't notice Frank's subtle move, his right hand slipping into his pocket, where he kept a compact semi-automatic pistol, SIG Sauer Micro Compact, loaded with 8 Hornady critical defense rounds, 1 in the chamber, 7 in the magazine. Frank had a license for that SIG Sauer pistol and was well trained in its defensive use. Although it had been years since he had faced real combat, his military experience and direct confrontations had prepared him for a moment like this. Facing an armed and hostile aggressor like Mark Lovell, Frank instinctively knew how to react to the deadly threat. The memories of his past experiences kicked in, guiding his decision. With his hand still in his pocket, Frank made the choice to end the standoff by firing at Lovell. The immediate danger posed by Lovell's weapon, his aggression, and his proximity justified a lethal response. Once the decision was made, Frank composed himself. He regulated his breathing and focused on the action, drawing his weapon from his pocket, aiming at Lovell, and quickly firing 2 precise shots. He had to handle the gun with complete control and execute the maneuver in just seconds to prevent Lovell from counterattacking, something Frank wanted to avoid. But just as Frank focused on Lovell and began drawing his pistol smoothly, 3 rapid gunshots rang out behind him, to his right. At that very moment, Frank saw Lovell's body convulse from the impact of the bullets before collapsing to the ground. Startled by the unexpected gunfire, Frank shouted, "What the hell?" He turned and saw the shooter, a woman still aiming her gun at the fallen man. Quickly regaining his composure, Frank approached her. "I think it's done." "Lower your weapon," he suggested calmly. "He was about to kill you," the woman replied, lowering her firearm. "Yes, he was," Frank confirmed. Then he asked, "Who are you?" "I'm an off-duty officer and part of the security team here," she explained, moving toward Lovell. "Excellent. I'm glad you're here," Frank said. "I'm glad too," she replied. Frank and the security officer knelt beside Lovell, who was still alive and conscious, though groaning in pain from the 3 gunshot wounds. "What happened?" Mark whimpered. "You were shot." "Stay calm," Frank instructed. "I was shot?" Mark asked, confused. "Yes. You were shot," Frank confirmed. "Who shot me?" Mark asked again. "I did," the officer admitted. Mark stared at her. "Marjorie," he murmured. "Yes, Mark," she answered. "Oh God, Marjorie, why? Why did you shoot me?" he asked, breathing heavily. "You were about to kill this man," Marjorie explained. Mark was struggling to breathe, blood pouring from his wounds. It hurts so much, please, help me," he begged. "I've already called an ambulance. They're on their way." "Stay calm and hang on," Marjorie ordered. Mark kept moaning in distress. "I wasn't really going to shoot him. It was just a joke," he said, gasping. "Mark, pointing a gun and threatening someone is not a joke," Marjorie replied firmly. "You know it was a joke." "I was just joking," Mark whispered. "How many times have I told you that your so-called jokes could get you killed?" she said. I know, but it was just," he mumbled. "Oh God, I'm so cold. Why am I so cold?" He looked at Frank and pleaded, "Please, sir. I'm thirsty, could you get me some water?" Frank turned to the people nearby and asked someone to bring water. But he could see Mark was losing blood too quickly. Even if the paramedics arrived that second, it was too late, he had already lost too much. For a few more seconds, Mark kept asking for help. Then he went silent, unconscious from the blood loss. A few seconds later, he stopped breathing. Frank checked his pulse, then checked again. No signs of life. He was gone. Mark Lovell had died. It was around 11:30 p.m. when the police finally allowed Frank and Bro to leave the restaurant and bar. Along with the other witnesses to the confrontation and the shooting, they gave statements to the police, Detective Ives, special agents, internal affairs investigators, and even an assistant district attorney. Frank and Bro explained everything about their encounter and their involvement with Mark Lovell. Frank also gave an additional statement supporting the off-duty officer's decision to shoot Lovell, publicly stating that she had saved his life, but after a night that had started as a birthday celebration and ended in the death of a local sports celebrity, Frank and Bro drove home in silence. For a long while, neither of them spoke. Finally, Bro broke the silence. "Do you regret not being the one to shoot him?" she asked without hesitation. "Yes," Frank replied. Bro reflected on Frank's firm, unequivocal answer and sensed the bitterness in his voice. Frank felt no satisfaction, only resentment over how it had all played out. Lovell had died at the hands of a security officer. Bro knew that this unresolved tension was far from over. She was certain that everything that had happened had already become a personal challenge for Frank Walker, and it did not bode well for Mark. Mark was a rising young star, with a massive ego, a volatile temper, and a gun. In front of him stood Frank, a seasoned corporate strategist with experience dismantling powerful figures. Frank was furious that someone like Mark had dared to try and steal his wife right in front of him. Bro was convinced that Frank had been carrying a weapon and that he had deliberately orchestrated the situation to push Mark into a scenario where he would be justified in taking him down. Calling Mark a loser in public was the bait. And in the end, Mark took it. To Bro, Mark Lovell had been doomed the moment he stepped out of his Audi. Watching the confrontation between the man she had once found herself drawn to and the man she was married to shook Bro deeply, because she felt like she had been the cause of Mark's downfall. Had he not chosen her, and had she not agreed to accompany him, he would still be alive. But in an ironic twist of fate, an off-duty police officer shot Lovell, mistakenly believing she was protecting Frank's life. This prevented Frank from carrying out his unspoken plan to punish Mark for trying to run away with his wife. But it also spared Bro from the lifelong burden of knowing her husband had killed someone because of her. "I'm glad it wasn't you who shot him," she confessed. "Why?" Frank asked. "Because, it's better that it was the officer," she explained. "You mean because it was the police?" Frank pressed. "Yes, and the media," she added. "If I had done it, the police and the press would have made it into a scandal," Frank replied. "Still, it would have clearly been self-defense. He was aggressive, he drew a weapon, and he threatened my life, more than once, from less than 10 feet away. So yes, I would have been justified in using lethal force to protect myself, regardless of what the press or police would say," Frank stated. "I know, but the media would have asked why you didn't just wound him instead," she said. "Of course. That's their job, to speculate and question. But the reality is, he was armed and dangerous. Even if I had shot him in the legs, he still could have posed a threat. In self-defense, I would have had no choice but to aim for a decisive shot," Frank explained. "Oh," Bro murmured, absorbing his words. "Even though you didn't shoot him, the media will still attack us," she said. "They'll blame me anyway." "Correct. They'll blame both of us. So get ready for the media storm that's coming. Our lawyer will help as much as possible, but there's a limit. You can be sure the press will run headlines tying his death to you and me. There may be lawsuits, complications, and endless speculation," Frank said. "Don't worry. We're prepared. And we'll come out of this stronger. After all, he seduced you, assaulted us, and threatened my life. We are the victims here," Frank added. Then he warned her, "Still, keep in mind that he was a celebrated football star, a local icon. Down here in the South, men like him are worshipped. So for a while, we'll have to deal with headlines about the tragic story of poor Mark Lovell, supposedly the victim of a jealous husband who caused his death by the hand of a security officer. But in time, the truth about who Mark Lovell really was will come to light. And the media frenzy will die out. They'll lose interest in the story of a sports star who secretly seduced married women for pleasure. I just want this all to disappear," she confessed. "It will. With time," Frank reassured her. There was a brief silence, until Frank asked a bold, unsettling question, about whether she regretted missing out on a night of passion with Mark. Shocked and offended by his audacity, Bro glared at him, stunned. After a pause to consider her answer, she finally said, "No, darling. Of course not." It was the denial Frank had expected, simple and seemingly genuine, but the long silence beforehand, the look in her eyes, and the overly formal "of course not" only confirmed his suspicions that he understood that she had reflected on the lost opportunity for an unforgettable experience, and was trying to hide her disappointment from him. Her tone, her gaze, and her word choice betrayed her. Still, Frank wasn't surprised that he understood that her encounter with Mark hadn't just shaken her sense of identity as a loyal wife, it had awakened the realization that she was also a woman, free to seek pleasure outside her marriage. During their dances, Lovell had drawn Bro into conversations about desires rarely spoken aloud, even in marriage. She had listened, and those words had stirred her curiosity. Lovell had convinced her that the best way to explore such taboo desires was with someone detached from emotional ties, someone with experience, who could guide her in discovering her sensuality. And so, the seed of betrayal had been planted. Frank knew that Bro had become receptive to the idea of intimacy with other men, despite her earlier claims that she'd never let another man get near her. That had only been a way to escape the confrontation when Frank stopped her from leaving with Lovell, but he had noticed the change in her voice, her attitude, her expressions. Her behavior now revealed a readiness to seek closeness with someone else, even if she wasn't ready to act on it yet. It was only a matter of time. Aware of all this, Frank understood he could never fully trust her again. As they drove home, he silently reflected on whether he could live with that, whether he could coexist with this deep mistrust and the quiet, looming possibility that one day Bro might take the opportunity to be with another man, and when that day came, Bro would probably go through with it. This story is charged with emotional tension and unexpected turns. It makes us reflect deeply on the consequences of our choices and confronts us with the fine line between truth and deception, between our hidden desires and our moral principles.